Hello and welcome to your English workout podcast. This is your space for talking sports in English. Have you ever struggled with finding time to study English? These episodes are short and effective, ideal for listening on the go. If this is your first time listening, welcome. Don't worry about starting from the beginning because the episodes work independently. I recommend you listen to the same podcast more than once. This will help you learn faster, better, and not forget what we're studying. Make sure you subscribe to my podcast. That way you will be notified every time I launch a new episode. If you're a listener for a while, it's great to have you back. Okay, let's get started. Today, we will listen to a conversation between a famous martial artist and a podcaster. Listen carefully. There's lots of fantastic terms that you can use in your next jiu-jitsu, grappling, or judo role. First, listen to all of the conversation. Afterwards, I will explain the terms. Ouça. Hello and welcome. Today, we are talking to the notorious Tom Marshall. Tom is a world champion in both judo and jiu-jitsu and is now in training for the UFC. Tom, welcome. I recently read an article where you said the most important move for a beginner to master is the forward roll. Can you tell me why?
Well, it's one of the core movements in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, Judo, and all grappling arts. The most important use of it is to avoid injury. If your opponent sweeps you over his head, use this movement to avoid falling head first on the mat and destroying your neck.
Interesting. And can you use the same movement in other situations like scrambles?
Yes, you definitely can. And when applying submissions, like the rolling judo choke.
In judo, the forward shoulder roll is usually taught on the first day as part of the beginner class.
Yes, that's correct. And I see that in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu it's often neglected. I think that sometimes instructors don't realize how hard this move is for some people.
Absolutely. It's certainly hard for me. An otherwise athletic person could face plant hard on the mat because they'd never been taught this fundamental movement.
That's so true.
Well, fantastic. I'm going to take your advice myself and practice my forward roll this evening. Thank you so much for being here. It's been such an honor talking to you.
Thank you for having me.
Good luck in the UFC, and I hope we can do this again soon. Today, we are talking to the notorious Tom Marshall. Notorious means famous or well-known. It's typically used for bad qualities or deeds, but became popular with MMA fighter Conor McGregor. Tom says the most important move for beginners is the forward roll. I recently read an article where you said the most important move for a beginner to master is the forward roll. Can you tell me why?
Well, it's one of the core movements in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, Judo, and all grappling arts.
A forward roll is a falling technique in grappling sports. A forward roll can be used in scrambles. Can you use the same movement in other situations like scrambles?
Yes, you definitely can.
A scramble is the ability to get from one position to another before your opponent can do so. It happens between positions. Who wins the scramble usually gets the point. Tom says that forward roll is used to avoid injury.
The most important use of it is to avoid injury.
Injury is a physical trauma. It's damage to the body caused by external force. This may be caused by accidents, falls, hits, weapons, and other causes. Tom mentions you can use the forward roll if your opponent sweeps you over his head.
If your opponent sweeps you over his head, use this movement to avoid falling head first on the mat and destroying your neck.
Your opponent is the person you are fighting against. A sweep is either of two categories of martial arts techniques. From standing, sweeps are throws or takedowns that primarily use the legs to attack an opponent's legs. On the ground, sweeps are techniques for reversing a grappling position. Tom also mentioned the forward roll can be used when applying submission.
And when applying submissions, like the rolling judo choke.
Submission is the act of utilizing a grappling technique to force your opponent to tap out.
If your opponent sweeps you over his head, use this movement to avoid falling head first on the mat and destroying your neck.
To face plant means to fall face first on the ground. Well done, you have completed your daily English workout. I hope you enjoyed this lesson and learned a lot. If you want to study more, you'll find me on Instagram, BlaBlaEnglish19, and my YouTube channel, BlaBlaEnglish.